day one of the Tupac trial is now. Um, Shout out. I'm tell you the truth. I'm not even sure who the hell I'm playing. But anyways, I'm gonna let this play, and I'm gonna be back in a little bit. All right. To act as unofficial security for Sean Combs and his artists when they came out west. In order specifically to ensure there are no problems with Wild Pyro and Death Row Records. And this took a rivalry between Wild Pyro and Southside Compton Crips in escalate. And those tensions boiled over in the Lakewood Mall in the summer of 1996. There, you'll hear that Trayvon Lane, a member of the Mob Pyro, associated with Death Row Records, was there with other members of Mob Pyro. In order to do some shopping, Lakewood Mall was a mall nearby Compton. You lost them. And Lee Anderson, Orlando Anderson, the defense deputy, was there. Now, Trayvon Lane that day was wearing a chain with a Death Row medallion. And there was a fight that occurs between the Mob Pyro group and the Southside Company groups. And at one point, that chain is pulled off Trayvon Lane's head. Now, what happened to that chain is an issue of much dispute. Not everybody agrees. But the act of disrespect of pulling the Death Row chain and the brawl that occurs further escalates this heated battle. And what you'll learn is that these two men, Trayvon Lane and Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, they encounter each other again. This time in Las Vegas. So that brings us back up to September 7th, 1996, here in Las Vegas. Again, Mike Tyson is fighting Bruce Sullivan. He disposes of him in less than in a round. Doesn't take a full round. And then after the fight, Tupac Shakur, Suge Knight, and the people that are here with him, they leave. And among his group is Trayvon Lane. And that is why this fight occurs. Trayvon Lane and the Death Row group sees Orlando Anderson standing by himself, and they decide to attack him in retribution for what happened in the Lakewood Mall. You'll see Orlando Anderson is on the bottom of that group. You see security coming, trying to break this up. And then you'll see Tupac Shakur, Suge Knight, Trayvon Lane, and that group facing me. Now, Orlando Anderson was by himself because when Dwayne Davis purchased the tickets for the Bruce Sullivan fight, he got them through a scalper. So everybody that came with Dwayne Davis were seated separate from him. And so Orlando Anderson was at that time. Is that in his world, there is no question that a response is required. And you will hear from Dwayne Davis what happens next. Because what happened over the next 2.5 hours is something Dwayne Davis would later describe himself in the secret 2008 interview from his attorney's office with the federal task force. And we'll talk about that interview and the circumstances surrounding that later. But we'll hear about what the next 2.5 hours was. So, what we learn is that Dwayne Davis is upset about the beating of his nephew. And frankly, that's not an unusual response. What's unusual is the next steps Dwayne Davis takes. Unusual for the normal person, maybe not unusual for like the gang culture. Dwayne Davis decides he is going to organize a retaliation, that this meeting cannot go unanswered. Then he runs into a person named Zip Martin. Remember the Zip Martin that was a connection with Bad Boy Entertainment from New York? And Zip Martin tells him that he has a gun and that he can come help him out.
Oh my God, Chad, I can't hold it in anymore. They're using his self-snitching and opening statements. Oh, keep me mad. mumbling like a second ago. You see his face right now? Oh my God. This is from the 2008 interview, his self-snitching. We're not even 10 minutes in. The self-snitching has already started to begin. Oh my God. Oh my God, this is riveting.
Shout out to AB to the seventh power.
So later, Dwayne Davis organizes two vehicles to go over to the 662. Before that, he gets the gun from Zip Martin. He goes out to his Mercedes-Benz, gets the gun from Zip Martin. And then, after some time, he assembles two cars to go to 662 to violently confront Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight for the beating of his neck. And you'll hear that Dwayne Davis wasn't initially in the right Cadillac. He goes into a van, and Orlando Beach and Anderson, they go in a white Cadillac, and they go to Club 662, waiting for Tupac Shakur, waiting for Suge Knight, waiting for this violent confrontation. And what you'll learn is that Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight don't show up while they're there. So what you hear Dwayne Davis say is he got out of the van and goes into the Cadillac. And the plan at that point is to go to a liquor store, get some booze, and then go back to the Las Vegas Strip and party. What the original intention was before Orlando Anderson was beat at the end. But on the way back to the Las Vegas Strip, they see a caravan of cars. And that caravan included Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. And in that white Cadillac, before the shooting occurs, Dwayne Davis explains that the driver is Terrence T. Brown. In the rear driver's side is DeAndre Dre Smith. In the rear passenger side is Orlando Baby Anderson. And Dwayne Davis himself is in the front passenger side. And this is how Dwayne Davis explains the murder of Tupac Shakur.
This dude here talk way too much.
Admit that as they see Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight driving to Club 662, Dwayne Davis, along with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson, decide to make a U-turn, confront Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. Dwayne Davis has the firearm. It's a firearm he got from Eric Bonds at Martin. And then he passes it to the back. Dwayne Davis says that if that if they were on his side, Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight were on his side of the vehicle, he would have shot them himself. But because they were on the other side, he handed it to DeAndre Smith. DeAndre Smith, according to Dwayne Davis, did not want to shoot at that time, so Orlando Anderson shot into that car. Dwayne Davis explains this over and over again.
And when he started laughing, he said he should look over and see you. He looks right at you. Are you hearing this? When he goes over to you, and then, Tupac's getting shot, and then the story is Tupac's trying to, yeah, what do you see happening inside that? I'll see the boy, you want to shoot it? I'll look at the kid. I'll look at the kid. You see the much straight or something, you see what happened in his neck right here? Yeah, okay.
And mind y'all, these are the words of Kiffy D. Davis that's talking.
One other thing Dwayne Davis talks about during the murder of Tupac Shakur is that there's a car full of women, and he calls it broads, a car full of women who are there as well. And you're going to hear from one of them. And what she's going to tell you is that she disagrees slightly with Mr. Davis's rendition of facts. They were, in fact, communicating with Suge and Tupac's car, but they weren't talking to Tupac, they were talking to Suge. And what she says is she hears gunshots, she sees a white Cadillac flee, and then what Dwayne Davis interprets as them chasing her, she'll tell you is them just panicking and trying to get away. But she will say they inadvertently follow Dwayne Davis and the other people in the white car as they are fleeing. After Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur's vehicle is shot, Suge Knight makes a U-turn and heads back to the Las Vegas Strip.
Mm-hmm.
The car ultimately can go no further and stops. Police arrive. Medical arrives. You will hear that Suge Knight was grazed in the head and has glass going in his head. And he ultimately survives those injuries and is released very quickly. You'll also hear that Tupac Shakur was shot multiple times. That he was brought to UMC, and that 6 days later, he succumbed to those injuries. And within 24 hours, the Cadillac and the assailants are back in Compton. They stay the night, they drive right home as though nothing happened. But a war followed them back to Compton. Because while people were afraid to come forward to police, the police knew and the streets knew that Southside Compton Crips were responsible for this murder. And the war that follows in Compton is a bloody one. You'll hear that Mob Piru and Southside Crip members start shooting at each other. Within 10 days, 3 people were killed. A number of people were shot, including an 11-year-old girl. And what you'll also learn, that none of those cases were prosecuted. Why? Because in this context, One person who has a hard time being silent is Dwayne Davis. You're going to hear from 1998 to 2023, Dwayne Davis has given a number of statements regarding this case. So, as early as 1998, Davis spoke to the FBI. He admitted he was in Las Vegas during Tupac's murder, but he denies being responsible. Then in 1999, Davis speaks to the FBI again, and these aren't interviews that are focused on the Tupac Shakur murder. These aren't interviews regarding drug transactions and drug trafficking, but he does say that Tupac does come up, and Dwayne Davis admits to being in Las Vegas where Tupac Shakur says he wasn't involved, but he was mad about the fact that Orlando Anderson was beaten, and that his plan was to handle it if Compton had Tupac survive. Then in 2008, the interview of clips we've heard today, in a secret interview with the federal task force, Davis admits to his role in the murder of Tupac Shakur. And we do need to talk a little bit about this 2008 federal task force. Because
what you are witnessing here is a human equivalent of a heat-seeking missile.
Get under the bed. Mommy needs to get her guns. We're set out to create an ideal combatant. Super soldiers. No one gets out.
And the interesting thing about the murder of Christopher Wallace is that Christopher Wallace is killed leaving a party in LA. Also at that party, Dwayne Davis. Christopher Wallace there was a suspect vehicle that owned a Chevy SS Impala, and Dwayne Davis happened to own a Chevy SS Impala. Now, as a result of that, the task force decides, well, let's look at Dwayne Davis. And the thing we know about Dwayne Davis is that he trafficked narcotics. And so they were able, through a CI and an undercover, to have a drug transaction with Dwayne Davis. And as a result, Dwayne Davis now has a case, big trafficking. And so the federal task force approaches Dwayne Davis and his attorney, and they say, hey, look, we want information regarding the murder of Christopher Wallace. That is what we are trying to investigate. And what Dwayne Davis says is, I don't have any information about that, but I can tell you about what we did. I can tell you about Tupac. And that's what he does. He tells a federal task force that that's about his involvement, what you've heard, his orchestration of the murder of Tupac. That secret conversation, that proffer, was secretly recorded and released later. In 2009, Davis is being so helpful to federal authorities that he actually flies out to New York to try and get Zip Martin to implicate himself in the Tupac Shakur murder. Zip Martin at that time was dying of cancer, was out of the game, and really did not engage with Dwayne Davis. In 2009, though, Dwayne Davis gives an interview to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Detective Dan Boone. Now, Dwayne Davis is more guarded in that interview. It is a different setting than the interview in 2008. It's not a secret proffer. But Dwayne Davis does admit that he was in Las Vegas, that he was mad about Orlando Anderson, that he was the boss, that he was in the White Cadillac, that he procured the firearm that ultimately killed Tupac. Then, in 2011, the landscape changes. Because in 2011, Greg Keating, the guy who was leading the task force in 2008, the guy who organized the secret proffer between Dwayne Davis and the federal task force, he leaves law enforcement and decides he's going to publish a book about his investigation into Biggie Smalls, the guy who was killed 6 months after Tupac, and Tupac Shakur. And what he puts in the book is that Dwayne Davis confessed to the murder of Tupac Shakur. The book tells the story about his admission, about himself, but it also tells the story of Dwayne Davis telling about his nephew's involvement in the murder, about Big Dre's involvement in the murder, about Terrence Brown's involvement in the murder. And this is a problem for Dwayne Davis, because that meeting was supposed to be secret. And now his cooperation with federal authorities is open to the world. Not only that, Greg Kading is now profiting of Dwayne Davis's life story. So, in 2017, Dwayne Davis decides to go public. He's approached by the producers of a show called Death Row Chronicles that appears on BET. And this is just a small portion of what he says is his motivation for appearing.
More self.
Dwayne Davis says, well, I want to do this on the truth. And in the 2017 public interview, he's a little evasive, but he admits to being the boss. He admits to being in the white Cadillac. He admits to being part of the murder of Tupac Shakur. And when he says he's the only person that can tell what happened, he's right. Because by 2017, Terrence Brown is deceased. DeAndre Smith is deceased. Orlando Baby Lane Anderson is deceased. Terrence Brown was murdered in an unrelated incident. Orlando Anderson was murdered in an unrelated incident. And DeAndre Smith died from college. Remarkably, in 2019, Dwayne Davis then decides he's going to publish his own book. And with regards to the book, it is certainly a lot of self-aggrandizement. But again, the core remains. He was mad about Orlando Anderson about the beating of Orlando Anderson. He was in Las Vegas. He got the gun. He was in the white Cadillac, and he handed the gun to the sheriff. And what you'll notice is a constant thing that always goes through the statements is Dwayne Davis's visceral anger at Tupac Shakur for putting hands on his nephew. In the book, he says, them jumping on my nephew gave us the ultimate green light to do something to their hands. Then, Dwayne Davis decides that he's going to do public interviews regarding his role in the murder of
Play the tape. Play the tape. Somebody call Bruce Rivers.
Davis's public admissions mirror his private life. He admits to being a leader of Southside Crips. He admits the significance of the fight over the death row chain in the Lakewood Mall. He admits to being in Las Vegas the night of the fight. He admits to being angry that Tupac stomped Orlando Anderson at the MGM. He admits that he was hunting down Tupac and Chilla, first going at 616. He admits that he got a Glock 40 from Eric Zinn Martin for the purposes of hunting Tupac. He admits that he was in a white Cadillac with his gang members looking for Tupac. He admits to seeing Tupac in a black BMW and then changing directions, making that U-turn to confront Tupac. He admits to putting the gun he obtained that night in the backseat of the vehicle so the shooters could shoot. And again, what remains? Even as late as 2020, 2021-22 is Dwayne Davis's visceral anger at Tupac Shakur. And this anger is not just demonstrated publicly, but you will hear as recently as 2024, privately, in a conversation with his son. He talks about his feelings about Tupac Shakur. Nearly 30 years after the murder. Visceral anger that Dwayne Davis had for Tupac Shakur. It did it in 2.5 hours. He took care of what he thought was the proper response. And 28 years later, he still is angry about what Tupac did. On September 7, 1996, Tupac Shakur publicly, on camera, participated in a humiliating beating of Dwayne Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson. Dwayne Davis knew that in his world, that required a response. And over the years, in private interviews, in public statements, and even in private calls, Dwayne Davis has repeatedly told us over and over again about the anger he felt and his own role in the revenge drive-by shooting of Tupac Shakur. And now, nearly 30 years later, we're going to ask you to finally hold Dwayne Davis accountable. Thank you.
Yo. Oh my God. I told y'all weeks ago that this is going to be a funny ass case. It's not funny at all. Oh my God. I got notes. We're going to talk about it, but let's see what his defense attorney's going to say. What is his defense attorney going to say? What is his defense attorney going to say? I didn't know about that phone call, and they got a witness of one of the women that was behind Pac and I wonder what these jury members are thinking right now. Remember, none of this is evidence. None of this is evidence. It's merely to tell them about the case, why they are there. That's the prosecution side. They don't have that. They're not required to show them evidence right now. We're going to hear what the defense attorney is going to say, and then we're going to get into the first witness. But holy cow, oh my God, that was crazy.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Mr. Sands, do you wish to give your opening statement at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, sir.
Of course, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Yeah. I think this is the agenda.
would you like IT to assist you?
I think I got it.
Okay.
Is that right?
All right, so now it's KPD's lawyer's turn. He looks like he has his own slides. Loading them up. He got them hand tattoos. The hair is out today. I think I have a feeling that he's going to say they can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Here we go.
Good morning. We spent a lot of time, I think, when we were picking a jury, determining who would be the right jurors for a case like this. Obviously, we want people who are going to reserve judgment until the end, but really look at the evidence with a critical eye. Now, what the state has just told you, what they believe to be the evidence in this case. But really, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what they're saying is really true or fiction? Fact or fiction? I don't know if some of you recall, but I had asked a question specifically about what you were holding in your hands. And right now, of course, since you're all holding notepads and pens, that would be fact. Right? And in this case, for instance, I had asked before about the idea of, right? Microphone. I asked some of you if that microphone was buried and dug up 30 years from now, would it still be a microphone? The answer is yes. And the reason why that's important is because in this case, what they are telling you, they're representing it to be a fact when it really is fiction. And it's up to you to determine what the facts are in this case. Now, I'm going to give you a timeline here for you to understand just a little bit of how this is going to work, because there's so much evidence in this case that we have to sort of compartmentalize some things. And what I've done is really just sort of focus on the 3 detectives that work this file from beginning to end. First detective you will hear about is Detective Becker. He works the file, he's the original detective on the scene. Detective Long takes over the case for about 15 years or so, and then it ends with Detective Long, who sends us to the grand jury in 2023. But why this timeline is relevant is because you have to see the span of time for yourself. 30 years. And ask yourself this, what facts do they have after 30 years? Now, Detective Becker does what every homicide detective does when he arrives on scene. He's assigned to the case. He starts his investigation. At that particular time, though, Tupac Shakur was not dead. He was critically injured. He was at UMC. And it isn't until 6 days later that he passes away. But Detective Becker starts his initial investigation because it's pretty serious, and as a result, he just takes over the investigation. What he will testify to is that Flamingo Football on a Saturday night, in the middle of a fight between Mike Tyson and Bruce Sullivan, it was very busy when he arrived. And he arrived at a time where he was able to determine cartridge casings, 40 caliber, that was found at the scene. That's another factor. But at some point they're going to learn, he learns that potentially it was a Glock 40 that was the actual firearm that was used in this case. And then when crime scene analysts arrive on scene, they document the evidence. They document the cars. That would be important to determine at some point why the cars are documented. And with regard to Detective Becker, what he'll tell you is police officers write reports. Critical. Hugely important. Why? Because at some point in the future, like in this case, 30 years later, Detective Becker will not remember details like he would if he had his report is referenced. And that's going to be important for you to consider in this case. Now, what Detective Becker does, though, is because of the outcry, the attention, the media focus on this case, he took his file and he secured it in his office under lock and key. Because he was worried about leaks in Metro, leaking information out to the public, because so many people wanted to know answers to the question as to what happened and who did this to Entrepreneur. Now, what you're going to find is, when Detective Becker comes up in this case, that a lot of his reports are now missing. They're gone. Which is Metro's responsibility to hold and to pass on to the next detective and and then finally to the next detective. Now, Detective Becker also did not trust Compton PD. Why is that important in this case? Because there's an individual by the name of Reggie Wright Sr. He was a lieutenant working in Compton in charge of the gangs in Compton in terms of investigations. His son is Reggie Wright Jr. He was the head of security for Death Row Records, the same security that was here in Las Vegas on the 9th of September 7th, 1996. Death Row Records was affiliated with Mob Pirates Blood, and detectives Ladd and Brennan from Compton.
All right, I see where he's going. They're gonna try to blame this shit on Reggie. You could see it. You could see it. I see how he's setting it up. Let's see what else he has to say.
Answered directly to Reggie Wright Sr. Becker did not trust Compton PD. And one thing that he really didn't trust is that most of their information came from confidential informants that were not reliable. He'll tell you that. And because of his intuition, Compton PD was shut down in September of 2000 due to internal corruption. They just evaporated the police department, and the sheriff's department for LA County absorbed the responsibility to the police department because of the corruption that was there. Now, what facts, right? Just like the pads of paper that you have in your hand and the pens that you have in your hand, what facts can we determine from Detective Becker's efforts? First and foremost, we know that Tupac was shot multiple times. That's a fact. That can be proven. We know there was with a .40 caliber firearm. That's a fact due to the cartridge casings. On the corner of Flamingo and Buffalo, that's also a fact. Right? We're on board so far? We know the date, September 7th, 1996. That is a fact. At 11:17 p.m., we know that to be a fact as well. And then finally, that he was in a vehicle during the night.
With Hardee's Original Bag, bigger is better. Get full-size faves like our double cheeseburger, hot ham and cheese, hand-breaded chicken tender wrap, or spicy
Spent together. But here's the one thing. There are no facts to point to Kiki. Not one. You're going to hear about this over and over and over again. No facts like the microphone in your hand or the pad of paper that you have that you write with. Detective Long takes over the case in 2002, and he has it from 2002 to 2017. He was, interestingly enough, on the gang unit, and at the time of the shooting, he was in gangs, and he had been one of the first to arrive on scene. He will testify and tell you that every time he did something on this file, he wrote a report. Because that's important. That's what we do as a police officer. And he conducted follow-up interviews, and he made some travel to Compton. He will tell you those things. That's his role in all of this. But here's the thing. Detective Long also encountered some challenges in this case. They had to hide the case file with Metro. Because people were still accessing the file in Metro. And they weren't authorized to do so. So they changed the case number so that people couldn't find the file. In addition to that, what you're going to learn is LAPD reached out to him, called him up, hey, Detective Long, we have the gun. And we tested it, and it matches back to what you're looking for in terms of the weapon that killed Tupac Shakur. Detective Long goes to LAPD, gets the gun, transports it back, gets it tested, and it comes out as not a match. LAPD tells him after, they gave you a fake gun to test you out. This is the level of, I don't know how to put it, that was going on during this time period between Metro, LAPD, and Compton. This is what's happening during this time period. These, according to Detective Long, became very scarce and stale, meaning that it was just taking a long time for him to follow with people. Witnesses became unavailable. Why do you think that is? Because of time. So as a result, memories started failing because of that time. So Detective Long had these challenges. But here's what Detective Long does. He interviews Keefe in 2009. Sits him down, has an interview with Keefe, just like the state said. And guess what happens? Detective Long doesn't even know that Keith had actually spoken to a task force to inform. How is that
Right.
possible? Metro is the agency responsible for the investigation of Tupac Shakur's murder, and they don't even know about this. No one in that room in 2008 told Detective Long or Metro what was going on. And you know who was in the room in 2008? You had FBI in the room. You had EA in the room. You had LAPD in the room. You had the United States Attorney for the Central District of California in that room.
Okay.
And Detective Long does not know about any of that. What you will also learn is out of all those people in that room, not one person verifies what TPP tells them. That the FBI, the gold standard of investigation in our country, did not go out and follow up on what was said. Now, one of the things the state showed you was a picture of a car and indicated there was 4 individuals in that car. And he tell you that at some point, 3 of those individuals are dead, and Kiwi's the only one that's remaining. But at the time that he gives his statement to the task force in 2008, there's another individual that's still alive. They never interviewed that individual to verify if that information was true. Why not? Because the FBI just fell asleep, that the LAPD just didn't care. Kiwi was never charged for any of what he said during that time period. And it's because they knew he was full of crap. Otherwise, they wouldn't. Why wouldn't they? When Detective Long comes back to Las Vegas, he goes and he talks it over with the Clark County District Attorney's Office. You know what happens then? They didn't charge the case either. In 2009. Ask yourself the reason why that is. It's because they just didn't care about Tupac Shakur or his life. Or it's because they looked into it and realized we can't verify this information, we don't believe this to be the truth. Why would the Clark County District Attorney's Office not charge him in 2009? Now, what facts do we get out of Detective Long based upon what he did for those 15 years? We don't have the facts. Outside of statements made, allegedly by QED and other people, we don't have anything to verify any of that information. Not one single thing to corroborate the statements made by that man in 2008 or 2009. Not only by Metro, but by the FBI, by LAPD, by the DEA, by the United States Attorney's Office. No one corroborates any of this. So, 2017 comes along, and entity called the Center of Investigative Reporting, they filed what's called a FOIA request with Metro. And what that means is, FOIA is the Freedom of Information Act. It allows or requires government agencies to give up information if you ask for it. That's the point, is to be transparent. And people wanted to know what was going on with the murder files. This is 2017. This is years after any of the statements that were made and anything else. Where's the investigation? What's going on? Well, Metro said, no, we're not going to give it to you. So in 2018, the Senate turns around and files a lawsuit against Metro to force them to give them the file, to show them what work have you been doing over at that particular point. I don't know, what's that? 20 years? That's when the Detective
They need to mute Keefy D over there. He pouring water, coughing in the goddamn mic. Like, mute him.
What you look over is that Detective Long basically says, I'm here just to close out the case. He's not here to solve the mystery of who killed Tupac. So with everything you have in front of you that you're now hearing for the first time in terms of the statements that were made in 2008, 1998, 1990, whatever, Detective Long says, I'm just here to close out the case. That's his role. And what you're going to learn is Detective Long received a copy of what's called the Death Row Chronicles in 2018. not a deposition. It's not testimony under oath. It's edited and it's done for illustrative purposes. He receives a copy of it. You know what happens when he receives that copy of the interview that the state has basically shown you in this case? No charges filed. Why? So, he writes a book allegedly. Right? Allegedly, he writes his book on Controversy Legend in 2019. You know what happened to the book? Right? He confesses to it. What you find is, no charges filed. What is going on? District Attorney's Office doesn't want to charge the case. No charges filed. When the interview happens, no charges are filed. When the book is written, what is going on? 5 years goes by.
Okay.
And nothing is going on with the case. But Detective Mogg says he's closing it out. Detective Mogg turns around and applies for what's called a search warrant. Now, what a search warrant is that in July of 2023, around that time frame, a search warrant requires a police officer to get permission from a judge to basically violate the sanctity and privacy of your home. Right? There's got to be legal reasons for it. He's got to go through that process, and he's got to ask permission from a judge in order for him to get that. And what he does in that search warrant application is he assures the judge, hey, what we are looking for is in the home. The thing that's going to help us solve this crime, who killed Tupac, is in the home. And he signs an affidavit, and that's important. I want you to remember this. He signs an affidavit attesting to what he's saying to this judge to be true and correct. What he says is, I think we have evidence in KPD's home that will solve the murder of Tupac. So up to this point, they've got all these statements, they can be corroborated. So now they're saying, we have evidence in this home that we think probably is in the home. And as a result, we're going to find this evidence that's going to help us solve this case. What I want to tell you right now is that they don't find it. And in the meantime, Detective Mogg retires. He now becomes Mr. Mogg. And Mr. Mogg goes to the grand jury. And in the grand jury, it's a secret proceeding. We're not there. The defense, isn't sitting like we are here. It's just the prosecutors. There's a panel of people called the grand jurors, and you have people come up and they testify under oath. And there's really no way for the defense to challenge any of it because it's done in secret. We don't really know about it. But in this particular case, Mr. Mogg is sworn to testify truthfully. And you know what Mr. Mogg does? He just reads pages of the book into the record. He doesn't do any more in terms of an investigation than read pages of a book into the record. He never documents in any of his efforts any verification of the book before he reads it into the record. He walks up, gets on the stand, and reads the book as if it's the gospel truth. And that's what he does. He treats that book like it's fact. Now, what you're going to find out about Mr. Mogg is that he never wrote a report. So when he took over the case in 2017, all the way up until when he retired in 2023, was in front of the grand jury, he never wrote a report. Not one time. Not like Detective Becker, and not like Detective Long, and not like any other police officer who does their job. This man never writes a report. In fact, what happens is he transitions, right? He's a metro detective, he retires, and then he gets a job working as an independent contractor for the district attorney's office as an investigator. And as an investigator, he doesn't have any police power. He continues to work as a lead detective on this case. Even though the procedure is you hand your file and your officer's report to the next detective in line. That's how this works. But he keeps the file to himself and he starts billing against the file after he retires as a detective. Because now he's an independent contractor. That's important to know. Why is that important? Because what the evidence is going to show you is that he backloaded his work. And when he finally writes a report, it's not an officer's report. It's a investigative report that spans from 2018 to current, and we just received it about 5 weeks ago. The importance of capturing everything you do, the accuracy that you would need to be able to be in court on a murder case, not some type of, college paper that you forgot to do, and then the last second just put something together and, get it out the door. Mr. Ma does not do any of that. That's going to be important thing for you to consider. Because according to that report that he submitted 5 weeks ago or so, he never verified the book. According to that report, he never investigated any of the alternate theories that were out there. You're going to hear about those alternate theories. There are people who have developed over time answers to the question, who did this and why? He never looked into any of it. Which I think, at the end of the day, don't you want to see what's out there to help you in your investigation? And according to his work, his report, he did more on the case after he became an investigator than he did before when he was a detective. What I'm going to tell you right now is what you're going to find if you listen to all the evidence that his work was biased, sloppy, and incomplete. Those are the 3 things you're going to determine for Mr. Bob. Now, because of the fact that in terms of the evidence itself, he doesn't have much, the state's going to lean pretty heavily on their witness.
Yeah, the state court been plain
of the type of
simple.
people you're going to run across in this trial based upon their witness list.
I'll be right back.
First person is this guy named Reggie Wright Jr. He's the security company for actually for death row records. And what he is a felon. Second of all, you're also going to find that he's a former Compton police officer. He worked for Compton PD for about 5 years, and apparently he got disabled. At some point, he becomes a felon. You're going to learn about that. And his father, like I said before earlier, Reggie Wright Sr. was the head of the Compton PD gang. What you're also going to learn about Reggie is that, once again, he was supposed to be protecting Suge Knight. Where was he the night of the shooting? In addition to that, he orders his security team to not carry firearms the night of the shooting, before the shooting took place. What you're also going to learn is, he wasn't even around when the shooting occurred. So the principal, meaning the person he should have been protecting the most, would have been Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records. This man was nowhere to be found. He was sitting at a club on 662 Down Street, waiting for Suge to show up. While he left his people that were working for him
Come on, man. I don't want to hear Keefy D's nose right now. Like, y'all need to mute him.
unarmed in the vehicles behind Suge Knight. And when push comes to shove, he orders his people to lie to police during their investigation. That's going to be called by that. That guy's going to be called by that. In addition to that, when everyone said that, Suge Knight goes to prison because he was not supposed to be in a fight in Las Vegas. He violates his release. Guess he takes over Death Row Records. Reggie Wright. Now, the state is also going to bring in other people with unreliable positions, including criminal histories, financial motivations, and inconsistent statements. That are the people and the quality of the evidence that you're going to listen to in this case. Just to give you another example, there's going to be an individual by the name of Devonta Lee. Who is he? He's been a paid informant for years. You're going to hear that they have paid him to be an informant. He will, of course, say whatever he needs to say to avoid his own criminal actions, but his testimony will be inconsistent. And that's what you have to really rely on. What exactly is he going to say, and can you even believe it? In addition to that, you're also going to learn about a disgraced LAPD detective by the name of Greg Cade. The state told you about him. You are told. He benefited off of what was happening with regards to TV. Now, Greg Cade, he stole a file. What you're going to learn is he actually stole the file. He took the Tupac and the Nicki case files and ran and walked out the door. This is an LAPD detective that they are using or one of the people that they're going to be focusing on to establish their case. He writes the book, then he holds himself out as the person who solves the murder. That's Greg King. That's the LAPD tactic. Now, what you're also going to learn is Greg King, when he was a detective with LAPD, was basically caught manipulating witnesses. And because he was caught manipulating witnesses, it led to
Every interaction we have, Finn is involved in almost every single one of them, 99 point something percent, and it's resolving over 7,000 without us touching it at all.
your challenges, right? I mean, gosh, we're sitting here, there's cameras in the room. I mean, things going on. But it's really time. Like, how do you, as jurors, try to figure out a time on this case? There's been so much time. Delays. By who, though? And there's corruption. How do you look at your information that you're receiving when anything more than just like skepticism? Like, you're gonna look at this stuff and you're like, well, I mean, you have a motive to lie. You have a motive to tell or deceive. And it's because at the end of the day, there's not actual facts. You get past all the talk and you talking about the talking. Just look at the actual facts. What facts do you have to support any of what GPD said in any of his interviews or in the book? When you look at this relevant timeline again, and you see the length of time, ask yourself, what facts do they have to even put GPD in a car in Las Vegas on September 7th, 1996? What facts? When you look at the video that happened at the MGM, look for them. Try to find them there. Try to find any of the other individuals. Remember, he said there's 3 individuals in the car with him and Orlando Anderson. Orlando's in the video because he didn't beat up. Find any of the other individuals on the videos of the MGM. Look for evidence that shows that KPD was even in Las Vegas on the night of the fight. Receipts, credit cards, a picture of him standing next to somebody else, maybe watching the fight from another casino. Something. In the book, you're going to learn that Kiki says that he was at the fight. He was sitting on the second row. He was sitting with all the celebrities, and he was dressed in his finest gear. There's not one iota of proof that he was ever at that fight. But you know who just showed an iota of proof that he was at the fight? Suge Knight. Suge Knight was rated, and at some point, there is a ticket stub to that fight, the Tyson versus Selden fight with Suge Knight's possession. Because he went to the fight. You would think, a fight like this, you want to show everyone that you went to the fight. There's no evidence at all that man was at the fight. But fact versus fiction. Really, at the end of the day, what you're going to hear from witnesses that will testify to this is that GPD was known to do this. That's the testimony you're going to hear.
Oh no. Oh no.
That's what you're going to hear about that.
Wow.
Man right there. So you have to ask yourself the question. Really? If I just say things, is that going to end up being one of those things where I'm going to be headed up for murder if I just keep repeating that fiction? I keep repeating that. The answer is no. You have to corroborate everything I said in order for it to be true. Otherwise, it's just that. Or fiction. And at the end of all the time we spent together, what you're going to find is that the state cannot prove to you beyond reasonable doubt the claim that he had anything to do with a first degree murder with use of deadly weapon. There's no facts to that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandman. So at this time, are you prepared to proceed with your case in chief, or did you need a brief break?
Just need a break to bring the evidence. So maybe give the jury a few minutes.
Okay, so they're taking a break. Chat, let's talk about it. First, let me come to the poll, see what you guys think about opening statements. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to break it all down and give you my legal opinion, okay? So let's first start with where you guys are in the poll. All right, check y'all out. We got 1,000 votes. Thank you so much, but you got my likes looking raggedy. Can I get to 1,000 likes? Can y'all get me to 1,000 likes so we don't have to put it on members only? you so much. Who will have a stronger opening statement? I put this up 3 hours ago. 77% of you guys said the state. 23% of you guys said Keefe D's defense. Let's talk through this, and we're going to start with the state. Saw some of your questions, so I am going to address those as well. The state went first. I did not time it. If we look at a clock right now, it is 1:47 Eastern Standard Time. They got started around 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, so it looks like opening statements altogether was somewhere around total about 77 minutes. Okay, so I did stop it here and there, but not a lot. I briefly interjected, but 77 minutes, the majority of that time was on the state, and then you had a little bit from the defense. What did the state do? And what is one big thing that I don't know if you guys noticed? They showed some of Keefe D's own statements, okay? They, played some of the self-snitching. There was a phone call that I don't know existed. We're going to talk about that phone call in a second. But one thing that was missing was Vlad's interviews. Because Vlad said that he didn't want to hand it over to the prosecution.
And
you do have
and Vlad is a
our
fed.
dialogues interviews. Okay, so that's one thing that I noticed. All right, starting with opening statements from the top, they started with the fight. Okay, so they walked the jury through the fight. They went through the casino, talked about how the fight happened, and the planning and retribution that came from Keefe D. That's a big statement to make. Remember, this is just letting the jury know what the case is about, right? So they're taking notes, but they cannot use anything that they're writing down right now in opening statements. Nothing that they just heard from the state, nothing that they just heard from the defense in their deliberation. They cannot use this. This is just for their awareness to know what the case is about. It starts with the beating, right? So they talked about the beating, the planning, the retribution, all of that stuff. We did get a map, which was interesting. So they did show us a map of the gangs in Compton, and it was all broken out. They did focus on the mob Pyru and then the South Side Crips. And some of y'all are bloods in this damn chat, okay? I put on the blue cap, like to mirror the cap emoji. They were like, hey, you better be careful with that damn hat. You gotta pick a different color. So that was interesting. But we go to the map in Compton, and then we talk about the Lakewood Mall incident between Trayvon Lane and Baby Lane, right? So we talked about that, the death row chain being snatched, and that's what this is all about. I did think that the prosecution did a good job in walking through the history of how the fight happened. That was important for the jury to learn about. Diddy's name came up there, and I was surprised that Zip was on there. I mean, not surprised, but we know about the Zip, the Eric Von Zip story. Zip is dead. Apparently, he died of cancer a few years ago. So we have that whole situation. Now, we did learn a few things, right? Like they did show us the car, the placement, who was in the car. What I was curious about, because if I'm on the jury, what happened to the white Cadillac? Where's it at? Where's it at? You said that it arrived back in Compton, but how do we know that, right? So that is interesting. If I was a jury member, I would want to know that. We also learned that one of the witnesses is one of the women that were actually in the car behind Pac and Suge. Did not know that she was on the witness list, but now we have confirmation of that. They talked about the FBI and Keefe D speaking to them as like before 2008. So some people knew that, some people didn't. So we did have that. They talked about the federal task force that was put together because of Biggie's death. And again, Keefe D, he had all that, what was it, PCP or the drugs that he got in trouble for. Instead of getting in trouble for that, he ended up agreeing to this proffer agreement, okay? I don't think that they did a good job explaining that to the jury. That is one critique I have on the prosecutor. I feel like they should have harped on that a little bit more, because the question becomes, why was Keefe D doing all this self-snitching, right? They should have talked about that proffer agreement a little bit more. So a little bit of a miss for the jury members, because now they're going to have to try to figure that out. You have to be very, very clear about these things when you are doing opening statements. Okay, so they talked about the federal task force. We went to the 2017 BET situation, and that's kind of where you get the first public statement that comes from Keefe D. They played the clip of that. So that did not look good for the jury because you're on camera now. Before, if we hear you talking about it, but now that they're including clips, like now you're paying attention. Chat was going crazy. Y'all were dying laughing at all of that self-snitching, right? Next, we talked about this book and how there were some admissions, right? I've been reading it for a little bit. Page 105, I believe, is the most damning part of it because the question becomes, all right, you did not write it, because that's what he's claiming. He's going to say that he did not write the book, that the ghostwriter wrote the book. It's very descriptive, though, and it's also very consistent with what he says repeatedly in all of these interviews, almost word for word. You know, so you have to think about that, right? If you repeat a story to the point where you got it down cold, it's looking a little suspicious. So we have that in 2018. Now, what is powerful, I will give the prosecution a point on this one, was that slide where they were like, they showed the public admissions. They said, he admits to this publicly. He admits to this publicly. He admits to this publicly. It was a slide, and I think I counted about 10 to 11 admissions on that particular slide. So very, very interesting stuff. Then we get to the art of dialogue stuff, and, you know, again, Keefe D is saying, they start to harp on the anger of how angry Keefe D was that Baby Lane was jumped like that. And then he started, you know, then we heard the phone call where you hear more of that anger. I don't recall who he was talking to, but Keefe D was on the phone with somebody like 30 years later, still really angry that they, you know, jumped Baby Lane, right? So they focused on that anger, which I thought was pretty interesting. Okay, that's the opening statements for the prosecution, right? So that's the state. Let's go to the defense, because here's the thing. Whenever it comes to any criminal trial, even if your client is guilty as sin, the defense's job is to cast doubt on what the state is about to show and say and all of those things. And I do think that Keefe D's attorney might be pretty good on cross-examination. I have a feeling that he might be more because, you know, attorneys have strengths and weaknesses. Some of them are really good on cross-examination. Y'all remember for the Julio Fulio case, there was the prosecutor in that case, there was this young woman, what was her name? Anna Ismer. I called her Chat GPT because she was so sharp on cross-examination. Y'all remember what she did to Sean's mama? She annihilated her on the stand. So, strengths and weaknesses. Now, the thing that you have to do when you're a defense attorney is cast doubt, but the focus is likely going to be on police procedure and finding issues in criminal procedure, right? So, you know, he talked about the timeline. And I thought there was more on the timeline, but what he showed on that timeline was kind of the changing of the guard. 3 detectives, right? You have, wrote them down here, you have Detective Becker, Long, and Mogg, right? So you have the changing of the guard between 3 different detectives. And he showed us that timeline and started just pointing out some things that were funny, right? So let's go through it, right? So we have 1996 to 2001, you have Detective Becker. There's some missing reports. I thought that was a good point. The jury's going to remember it. Talked a little bit about the Glock 40. I want to see if there's some forensics. Usually those are the first few witnesses that we start with, is people that responded to the scene, first responders. You might get some EMTs, you might get some police officers, you might get people that are still alive that witnessed it as well. So that's something that we're going to focus on. Talked a little bit about Compton PD and how it was shut down. That came up, and then that's where we get the introduction to Reggie Wright. Now, let's talk a little bit about Reggie. You know, Reggie has a YouTube channel. He has been talking about this case for years, right? Now, the thing is, I think he said that he is on the witness list, did get subpoenaed, but here's the thing, and the judge said this at the beginning to everybody that was in the gallery. If you're on the witness list, you're not supposed to watch the trial. So, you know, I'm a little concerned about that, but we'll see what happens. So they talk about Reggie's father. That's the first introduction we got, was in the first part of the timeline. Next we go to Detective Long. This is from 2002 to 2017. Detective Long, I had a lot of questions about this one. They changed the case number, apparently. I don't know why he was focusing on that. But the LAPD was given a fake gun to test. Did y'all see my face? I was like, what the hell is that? What are they talking about? So I want to learn more about that. And if I'm on the jury, you know, like that's a question that you might have, right? Like, what are y'all talking about? They also mentioned that the FBI did not follow up on some of the claims that KPD mentioned. So that's another question, right? If you're on the jury, hey, well, how come y'all didn't follow up on this stuff? So very, very interesting stuff. Now we go to Detective Mogg. I think this is where the prosecution has a problem. So they really have to clean this up with their witnesses. This is from 2017 to 2023, and we started the stream with me showing you guys the original press conference when KPD's arrest happened. We looked at some of the body cam footage as we were waiting for court to start, all of those things. Now, Detective Mogg, and you know, there are some weaknesses here for the defense too. They talked about the BET interview, right? And they mentioned that there were no charges brought. However, he mentions that there was a search warrant. Now, when you have a search warrant, you have to have probable cause to search somebody's home. But the issue is you have to put that in front of a judge, and a judge has to approve it. You have to convince that judge to sign it, to approve it. And Detective Mogg had to have something because the judge signed it. The judge signed it. So they achieved a search warrant. So I want to see what came out of that search warrant. So we're going to pay attention to that as well. The other thing is the grand jury. A grand jury found that there was enough evidence to indict KPD. So we're going to learn about what that evidence is. Later on tonight, I did pull down some of those documents. So I have access to some of them that I could show you guys during the lunch breaks. But there are some documents, there are some questions that grand jury had for police officers, things like that. I do have those documents, so we will be able to take a peek. Now, with Detective Mogg, this is a win for the defense. He didn't write a report until 5 weeks ago. If I'm a jury member, I'm like, well, why not? Why didn't you write it? I don't like that he put the word bullshit on a slide, because if you got older people that are a little bit more old school, it was a little bit bold to put that on a slide. I think, you know, to each their own, but, you know, I don't know. People are going to remember that. And it's likely that people are going to be talking about that all day. Because here's the other thing, when he's talking about bullshit, you're basically calling your client a bullshitter. That he's just lying. He just unking. Uncle's just unking. That's what he was doing. So, you know, he's kind of using some of KPD's weaknesses as a strength in the case. And I saw a few of you guys picking up on some of this stuff, right? Now, he did give us some clues on who is going to be called as witnesses. One is Reggie Wright, so we kind of knew that, but now we have confirmation. And Reggie himself had mentioned that he had been subpoenaed. We have Devonta Dirt Rock Lee, who was an informant. There's a few of you guys talking about that as well. Greg Kading as well. And here's the other thing. KPD definitely does not like Greg Kading. A lot of y'all don't like Greg Kading. And they're bringing up some weaknesses when it comes to Greg Kading as a professional. Things that, you know, he had gotten in trouble for, cases that were overturned, things of the like. But do you see how that's a defense strategy, is to come at the state's witnesses and just, you know, come at their credibility. So I have a feeling that he's going to be pretty sharp on cross-examination with those three witnesses in particular. Okay? So very, very interesting stuff. He talked about challenges. I'll give him a point for this. And the challenges that the state has are time, corruption, actual facts. It's interesting. Now, he also does say, and you know, I don't think it makes sense. He goes, we don't have any proof that KPD was at the fight. Well, we really don't care about that. What we want to know is if the ninja was in Vegas. Like, that's what I want to know if I'm on the jury. So I'm sure you guys all have some questions. That's really what I noted down for opening statements. You know, like I said, the jury cannot use anything. Even if they wrote all of that stuff down, bailiffs are going to take their notebooks back every day, and they cannot use this information. Now, we start with witness number one. Okay, that was opening statements. We're going to start with the state's presentation of the case. I just talked for like 10, 15 minutes. So we should have accumulated enough TiVo time to skip right through and bring us to, all right, let's see if we have made it.
Okay, looks like the jury's coming back in right now, so that was perfect timing. Shout out to me. I hope y'all got my lights looking right. Let's go ahead and hit play and go back into the courtroom. And thank you to everybody sending super chats and stuff. I will read them right before lunch, the lunch break. They got all types of hot mics in there. We heard TPD blowing his nose. Let's see if I can skip it. Alright, we are now current live with everybody else.
At Sophia Learning, we believe in making education more accessible and affordable for everyone. That's why we offer online college-level courses that are transfer-friendly. We know students are real people with real challenges, but Sophia can be a real solution. Sign up today and fast-track your degree.
All right, Steve, you may call your first witness.
Gary Dale.
Alright, this is witness number 1. We're gonna start a new poll soon too.
You do solemnly swear this testimony you're about to give in this act shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
First name is Gary, Garry. Last name is Dale, Dale.
Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Tupac, you may proceed.
Thank you. Sir, back in September of 1996, how were you employed?
I was working for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department at that time.
And how long did you wind up working for Metro?
25 years total.
September 7th of 1996, what was your assignment?
I was assigned to a bike team on bicycles on the strip, Las Vegas Strip area.
Is the uniform similar to the ones they have today where you're wearing yellow shirts or were you wearing something different?
Yellow shirts and black pants.
Direct your attention to right around 11 p.m. What part of the strip were you working?
I was working the a little bit further south end, south of Flamingo.
And did you have work?
Yes, I did.
What was his name?
Richard Goldgard.
While you were working on that area of the strip, did you cause there to be some sort of car stop of a vehicle?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what was the purpose of stopping this vehicle?
I initiated a car stop on a black BMW that had no license plates.
May I approach this?
You may.
First, I'm going to show you what the marking station pros exhibits 1 and 2. Now, there's some obvious markings on here, but these appear to be 2 aerials of the Las Vegas Valley for generally around the time period of the 2000s, 96 area.
Yes, sir.
Accurately reflect kind of the locations that they're describing on there. Lingo, Harvard.
Yes.
Move to event 1 and 2, Judge.
Any objection?
No objection.
So the minutes, you may publish.
So to start with exhibit number 1.
Alright, we got some pictures.
Right next to you, don't click it, but there is a mouse that you can roll around with a pointer. And can you generally tell me where this car stop occurred?
It won't work because you're doing it off of your computer.
I have it plugged in.
Boulevard here.
So if I told you that red dot's Harmon and Flamingo, and Las Vegas Boulevard,
Yes, sir. The car stop was right around, I believe it was right around this area.
so just south of Flamingo on Las Vegas Boulevard.
Yes.
When you approached the vehicle, did you recognize the occupants?
No, I did not.
Why did you stop this vehicle?
It had no license plate on the back.
When you approached the vehicle, did the occupants communicate with you?
Yes.
And did you, at that point, did you learn their identity?
They told me who they were, but just as identifying them, not.
Did you know them?
No, I
When they
didn't.
told you their names?
They told us their names because we asked them their names, but I didn't know. I had no knowledge of them for that. We ID'd them.
As you sit here today, do you recall who they were?
Yeah, Tupac, Shakur, and Marion Knight.
And approach. Showing you grand jury exhibit number 3. Is that how the two of them appeared to look that evening when you approached them?
Yes.
In particular, Mr. Shakur is wearing, or has on, a very large gold necklace.
Yes.
Did you talk to him about that necklace?
Yeah, we talked to him for a few minutes out there, and I was just remarked to him, "Wow, man, that's a huge piece of gold or something like that that he had around his neck."
Would you describe your interaction with him as congenial?
Yes.
Did you ask them about the license plate, why their vehicle had no license plate?
Yes, I did.
And what was the response?
They stated that they were filming a video, so they had taken the license plate off because they were filming a video going up and down the strip.
Move to admit 3, Judge.
Any objection?
I'm sorry. No objection.
If it's so admitted, you may publish.
And this large gold medallion is what we're talking about, correct?
Yes, sir.
How did that interaction with Mr. Knight and Mr. Shakur end?
We told them that they were going to have to put the plate back on their car, and we warned them and released them.
Did you remain down on the strip, in the strip area after they left that car stop?
Yes, sir.
Fast forward about, say, 10 minutes later, something unusual happened. What happened?
We were continuing riding on the strip area. We were heading southbound on the boulevard, and we heard some calls come out about a vehicle. Can't remember exactly what was said, but heading up towards Harmon, we saw the vehicle that had been described in the median of the road. It looked like it had ran up on the median and was stopped there in the middle of the boulevard.
What do you do when you see that?
We approached the vehicle.
Is it you and Mr. Goldberg? Or
Mr.
Officer Goldberg?
Goldberg and I.
And do you see either of the two people that you saw earlier in the vehicle?
Yes.
And who is that?
Marion Knight was outside of the vehicle, walking around, talking, and Tupac Shakur was being removed by EMS people.
As Marion Knight is talking, do you recall anything he's saying?
He was telling us to take care of Tupac Shakur. He had Marion Knight had a chunk of shrapnel or something in his head. He was bleeding, and when I wanted to talk to him, he was adamant that we needed to go and care for Mr. Shakur.
Did you then go to Mr. Shakur?
Yes, I did.
And then what do you do? What's your responsibility as it relates to Mr. Shakur as the EMT for you?
I was trying to talk to him to find out what had happened. Excuse me. Gather information to see who had fired at them.
Did you wind up riding anywhere with Mr. Shakur?
Yes, I rode to the hospital and the ambulance with him.
During that time period, between the time you get into Mr. Shakur and the time period he gets taken into the hospital, are you able to have any sort of communication with Mr. Shakur?
He was still talking, and I was trying to convince him to tell me the name of whoever his assailants were.
And did he ever respond?
Yes, he responded, no, we'll take care of it. Something like that.
No, we'll take
care of it, something like that.
That's the only thing we were able to gather from Mr. Shakur.
Yeah, I couldn't get him to talk to me any further than that. That was repeated a couple of times.
Approach the photographs. Obviously, when an incident, let me back up. When an incident like this happens, there's first responders, but then there is detectives, crime scene analysts, everybody who's called out.
Yes, sir.
Showing you what's been marked as grand jury exhibit number 4. You recognize the individual who appears to be inside that vehicle at that time?
Dan Ford.
Do you know what he did for Metro?
At the time, he was a detective. I was not there when that photograph was taken. But at the time, he was a detective. I'm not sure what he was, homicide or general assignment or
Be a crime scene
analyst, CSI.
And then I'm just going to show you a few other pictures of the vehicle itself. Showing you station proposed exhibits 5 through 8. Just flipping through those.
Ew, Keefe, stop. I do not want to hear him blow his nose.
Ew, you nasty bastard.
Is that how the vehicle appeared to you when you first arrived on scene? Obviously without people in it.
Right, on the scene of the, where it stopped in the alarm on the boulevard.
Move to admit 5 through 8.
Any objection, Mr. Sand?
No objection, Your Honor.
So admitted, you may publish.
And then finally, while you were at UMC, did you collect some personal items off Mr. Shakur?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as today's proposed exhibit number 33. You recognize that?
Yes.
What is it?
That's the objects I removed from Tupac Shakur. I pounded those into evidence. There should be a property report for those.
Let's talk about that large gold chain we see in that photograph right there. The second time you came across Mr. Shakur, was he wearing that gold chain that's around his neck?
No.
So you weren't able to recover that from him at the hospital?
No.
Which I'm just going to put up a few of these photographs.
And just letting you know that 4 was not admitted.
Move to admit 4.
Ew, Keefe.
So
Mute the
They need to
damn
mute him.
mic, bro. Mute the mic.
That's Mr. Ford appearing like he's inside that vehicle.
Okay.
5. Front of the vehicle? Yes. Yes. Sorry, I'm just typing down everything so you gotta answer yes or no. That's the rear of the vehicle without the license plate still?
Yes.
Number 8 is the driver's side of the vehicle.
Yes.
And oops.
Mr. Bishop will
Right now I can
also
follow up.
Oh my God.
7. That is what the passenger side of that vehicle looked like.
Yes.
Finding for you 33. Those are the items you were collected off Mr. Shakur in the hospital.
Yes.
Aw, these are, he has some Newports in his, what do we have here? So this is items that were in Tupac's possession. So he had some cigarettes. It looks like that's a ring and a stack of cash. Interesting.
Mr. Sam has requested an I-3 to also Ford's CSA report, as Mr. Ford is not physically capable of coming to court to testify.
So that'll be admitted via stipulation?
Yes.
What exhibit did you want to do?
I guess we should just make it next in order, which I believe is 143.
All right, that'll be admitted via stipulation as 143.
Thank you.
No problem. 33.
Based upon that agreement,
This is 33. 33 is also not admitted.
move to admit 33.
Any objection?
No objection.
So admitted.
And based on that agreement that we've reached with Mr. Sand, I believe he has no objection to the rest of Mr. Ford's crime scene photographs at this particular scene, which is state proposed exhibits 9 through 32.
That's correct.
All right, 1932 will be admitted via stipulation.
I'll pass the witness.
Okay. All right, so that was quick. That was your first witness from the state. Now we get to see how KPD's attorney does on cross-examination. It looks like he is not going to pass this witness, and he's going to ask him a few questions. Then we will move on to witness number 2. Let's go back in.
And you are Mr. Dale.
Yes.
Welcome back to the court.
Thanks.
So let me ask you this. So how long had you been working for Metro until you
Like 13 years?
I see. And at the time when you were on the bicycle on September 7th, 1996, how long had you been working for Metro at that point?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that's what you asked to begin with. I started in 83, so it would have been right around 13 years.
I see. And obviously, when you are first a police officer, you go through an academy before you become an actual police officer.
Yes, sir.
And you learn skills and techniques and things to help you become a successful police officer.
Yes.
One of those things I would imagine would be writing reports.
Yes.
Now, fair to say though, in this particular case, what you had seen, what you had done was basically you saw a license plate that wasn't on a vehicle, you stopped them, you asked for their ID, and at some point you just allowed them to continue on their way.
Yes.
So there was no need to write a report about that.
No.
Okay. Did you write a report with regards to that stop?
No.
Okay. Now, when you were present at the scene and you saw the vehicle stop, do you know if any other vehicles were behind it?
No, I did not see any other vehicles behind me, so I don't know.
So there wasn't like a caravan or a line of vehicles behind the black BMW when you stopped the vehicle?
No.
Can you describe for us a little bit about what the area was like on the night of September 7th, 1996?
It was pretty average night for the strip as far as the amount of traffic flowing and things like that. Not particularly crowded or packed or anything like that. The area we stopped them in had some lighting, but it wasn't like right in front of a hotel or something.
Man, we gotta give it up for the Little Gaming Channel one more time. Y'all give it up for the Little Gaming Channel. He just dropped another hundo on me. Again, I don't like interrupting, but when we have supporters of the stream that support it in a big, big way, I do want to stop to acknowledge them. The Little Gaming Channel is an OG around here. He says, some more love before I head out. Have an amazing stream, AV. Let's make that 100,000 subscribers.
Now this is a real kitchen. Full speed, running on Genius, orders hitting instantly. Drive-through and delivery, all moving together. That's how restaurants stay in sync. Big league reliability for any business. That's Genius.
Ooh, you know, like I cannot believe that the Tupac trial is gonna take my channel to a plaque. You know, we're about 400 people. You go tell your mama, your friends, everybody to subscribe and watch the trial with us. But this community is growing, this channel is growing, and I appreciate every single dollar y'all do. You know, everybody that's supporting the channel. It's amazing. So thank you so much, TLGC, and thank you guys for shouting him out. And TLGC, you have a good day. Enjoy your day today.
Cast a lot of lighting on the area or anything like that. But, you know, nothing out of the ordinary.
So there was nothing out of the ordinary as to that particular date and time in terms of any special events going on in Las Vegas at that particular time.
I'm sorry, there was always something going on the strip, so
I don't believe you.
I heard that things were going on that night, but I wasn't really aware of them.
Were you ever aware that on that particular night there was a championship boxing match between Mike Tyson and Bruce Seldon that was being held at the MGM?
Yes.
All right. And I would venture to say that would be something that would have been briefed to all the police officers prior to you going on your shift that night.
No, we didn't really talk about it.
All right. And then with regards to the amount of traffic, you're saying that even though this championship fight had taken place, in your opinion, there wasn't a lot of traffic on the strip?
Not more than ordinary.
Okay. And when you say not more than ordinary, can you describe for us what that means exactly?
Well, the strip is always pretty crowded, or was at that time, so, you know, that's why they had us out there on bicycles. It's because we could get in between in and out of cars. So I guess when we conducted the car stop, there was enough traffic that we felt comfortable that he was going to have to stop and pull over. They wouldn't be able to just take off on us.
Right.
And that's the best description I have. That's why we rode bikes out there. So, but there was always traffic in that area. It was always congested over there.
Okay, and that's probably the best way to put it, right? It's still congested for Las Vegas.
Yes.
But it's normal for Las Vegas to be congested.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it wasn't like, for instance, I don't know if you were around Las Vegas in 2020 and you could just take your bicycle and just ride down Las Vegas Boulevard with like no one around, right? It's not that
right. It's not like that.
All right. And when you say congested, meaning that cars could not go very fast because there's always cars around in that area.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in addition to that, your testimony was that you had arrived on scene and then at some point you're actually in the ambulance with Mr. Shakur.
Yes.
Being transported to the hospital.
Yes.
And the hospital you were going to was UMC?
It was UMC.
Okay. Now, when a police officer first arrives on scene, is that police officer considered to be the primary officer until such time as they are relieved of that duty?
Ordinarily, yes.
Were you the primary officer at that particular scene? Were you the first officer on arrival?
I don't really remember. There were so many of us that showed up like at right around the same time. There's just a lot of officers showed up there pretty quickly.
Right. Now, I mean, you have a pretty clear memory of this. Did you review any records or have any meetings with the district attorney's office prior to your testimony here today?
Yes, I did. I reviewed the records.
Okay. And once again, you do that so it'll help you refresh your recollection as to what occurred 30 years ago.
Yes.
Okay. Even though this might be something that's unusual, right? You have a celebrity who's shot on the strip, you still have to refresh your recollection in order for you to remember things.
Some of it, yes.
Yeah. And once again, you're doing that so you make sure that for this jury that you're accurate about what you recall 30 years ago.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in addition to that, you were shown a map, and I'm going to show you again here. This is State's Exhibit number 1. See this?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me, this map, do you know if this map was the actual map in 1996 of the Las Vegas area?
No.
You're smiling.
It's just a long time ago. It changes so much down there.
Yeah. So we know that this is a map of Las Vegas.
Yes.
But you cannot tell us, for instance, if this is 1996.
No, I cannot tell you.
Okay. So, for instance, on the top over here, this doesn't look like the Sphere, does it? Does it?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then down over here, does this look like T-Mobile or anything like that, as far as you can tell?
No.
Okay. Now, and once again, I just want to make sure I'm clear for the jury. This particular map, as it sits here right now, as it's here, for instance, we have like what looks like down here at the bottom. I'm pointing where the MGM label is right here. Do these look like bridges or walk bridges over the streets?
Can't really tell. Just scroll here real quick.
Does that help you?
Yeah, they do look like walkways.
And fair to say that those walk bridges in 1996, people were still walking on the streets, crossing like pedestrian crosswalks, right?
Yeah, I can't ignore. Look at Keefy D's face. This ain't even Unc status. This is granddad status. I think he's a grandfather. Like, he looked like he's sleeping with his eyes open.
I'm trying to recall. I couldn't honestly recall. I remember them taking the crosswalks out and putting those walkways in.
Right.
I remember when they did that, but I don't remember the year they did it.
And once again, I'm not trying to, it's not a catch-up moment.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I don't want to say something that I can't be sure of, but I remember when I was down there working, they no longer allowed traffic to cross on foot across the strip because of all of the accidents that we had. So they put those walkways in when I was still working.
Right. Okay. Now, and just finally here, with regards to the when you're riding on the strip and you're riding with your with the other person that's with you, you said at some point you were made aware that there was a shooting that had occurred, and the radio traffic indicated that the vehicle had stopped was because the vehicle that was being involved. Remember that line of questioning?
Yes.
Can you tell us just really quickly here, based upon State's Exhibit number 1? Once again, we're not looking at it in terms of an accurate 1996 view, but just in terms of the streets. Can you tell us where you were at when you took off to wherever the vehicle was? And I'll just pull that here quickly. Thank you. Sure.
Go ahead.
I couldn't really tell you where we were because my memory serves me, it was called out right around the same time as we were rolling up on that vehicle.
Okay.
There was shots fired call and vehicles involved, and then we rolled up and saw that vehicle in the middle of Harmon.
And when you rolled up and you saw the vehicle, can you tell us other vehicles that were behind that vehicle? Were there any other, like vehicles in an entourage behind the black vehicle?
There were several vehicles stopped all over the strip. It was with cars, so I couldn't tell you if they were with them or not.
Sure. Did other police officers aid in terms of securing the scene and making sure that anything of evidentiary value was going to be kept in that area?
Yes.
Because I would imagine it wasn't just you by yourself.
Right.
Your partner, other officers arriving on scene would have started to help as a team.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any redirect examination, Mr. Bajako?
No, yours.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do you have any questions for this witness? If you do, please raise your hand and I'll walk you through the process.
Oh, they can ask questions.
Seeing no hands, thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Dale. You are
Oh, shit. They do things different in Vegas, huh? So it looks like, so this is our first witness. First witness is done. This was a bike cop. I will give you guys a synopsis in a second. Let's see what happens if they're going to bring us witness number 2, if she's going to break for lunch. I think KPD's attorney needs to leave early today for something. So we might not do the full 7 hours, but let's see what happens next. But that is your first witness. Interesting.
State may call their next witness.
This one is called Ingrid Stokes.
Ingrid Stokes, witness number 2.
Yes. Yes.
Please have your statements for your first class.
Ingrid
Ingrid Stokes. INGRIDSTOKES.
Thank you, ma'am. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Paul, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Stokes. Back in 1996, did you have a different last name?
It was Johnson.
Okay, so you were by Ingrid Johnson back then? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Did you come to Las Vegas on the weekend of September 7th, 1996?
Yes.
Who'd you come with?
My best friend and two girlfriends.
Can you tell me who they were?
Shalane, Tanisha, and Lauren.
And why'd you come to Las Vegas that weekend?
Well, when you live in LA, you go to Vegas all the time. It's just a party city. So we decided to go for the weekend. We were all off work. And so we went to come hang out, have fun.
And were you aware?
Oh shit, Chad. This is the woman that might have been in the car. I think that's who this is. This is about to get interesting. We're already on witness too. She's already up there. She already up there. Auntie is here.
First, let me take a step back. So you guys were living in LA at the time?
Yes.
What part of LA?
I'm maybe living at my dad's, which is Carson.
Okay. And then you came out for the purposes to party. Were you aware that there was a Mike Tyson fight that weekend?
Yes, that's one of the reasons. There was always a Mike Tyson fight. But we were coming because my friend knew one of the managers or coaches, I forget what they're called. And we had planned on going to the fight.
Did you end up going to the fight?
No.
What happened?
Women in the bathroom, 4 women in the bathroom did not work. We took too long. We missed the fight completely.
Yeah, so where were you staying that night?
I believe we were at the Lexor, or the Rio, but I think it was the Lexor.
Okay. And then did you ever actually make it to the MGM where the fight was?
We made it to the let out, is what I call it, because the fight was already over, so everyone was kind of hanging out. So we went to see what was going on for the night.
And did you hang out there for a while?
I don't remember, but it would have been enough time to run into a few friends and say hello and hang out and maybe a drink or two, maybe.
So what did you do after hanging out at the MGM break?
Well, we had met one of my friends and they had mentioned there was somewhere they were going to go. So we decided, okay, we'll go there first and see what's happening before we decide, where we're going to end the night. So we all got back in our car, the rented car we took from LA, and drove.
And do you recall what kind of car that was?
It was a convertible Supreme.
And did all 4 of you go to the car?
Yes, all 4 of us were in the car.
And what happened once you guys started driving?
That's a loaded question. A lot happened. We got in the car. I believe we left the MGM parking lot, and then we went to the main street, Las Vegas Boulevard, I guess. And we were driving, and I believe we were, I don't know, about 10 minutes after leaving the parking lot, and then we ran in to Suge and Tupac in the car.
It's her. It's her.
And when you say you ran into them, what'd that look like?
Well, we were driving, hanging out in a convertible, and my girlfriend Lauren at the time, she knew Suge, and she told us, "Hey, there's Suge. Pull up next to him. I'm gonna ask them what they're doing." And so Shalane was the driver, and she slowed up close to me.
And so you said Shalane was the driver.
Yes.
Where were you seated?
I was the passenger in front.
In the front passenger? Shalane's driving, you're on the front passenger, and the other 2 women are in the back seat.
Yeah, Tanisha's behind me, and then Lauren is behind the driver.
After all these years, you still know?
Well, yeah. Some things you don't forget that one.
And so then when you start driving, when you see Suge, and your friend starts talking to Suge, what happens?
They were talking, and she was like, "What's going on? What's happening?" We look over this week, pull up to the car, and we kind of nod or say hello, that kind of thing. But we were in our own little world. While she was talking to him, he said, "Hey, we're all going to the club. Won't you follow us? Get behind us. You can go with us." And so that was decided we'll go there first and see what's happening before we go anywhere else.
So do you follow, do you remember who's driving and who's in the passenger side?
Suge was driving and Tupac was in the passenger seat.
Really?
This is kind of the way they look at it.
That was just like this.
And so, you decided to follow Suge and Tupac to the club? Is that yes?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. And so...
I gotta pause this for a second. That dude, that KVD got to get a confident control, bro. Like seriously.
Do you recall the name of that club?
66. It was the area code, so I remember it was 662 or 702, but now I know it's 662.
And then what did you do? Did you guys start driving over to
We got behind them and we started driving down the Las Vegas Strip. And it was weird because there was a car behind us and they kept going around us trying to get in front of us. It happened quite often. It was really annoying. We didn't understand what was going on. And then at one point we were getting ready to turn to go on the main street. I guess Flamingo was on. Or Flamingo, I think is what it's called. When we turned that way, I was like, what the heck is going on? People keep getting in front of us. I know how to get to the club. Let's figure out our own way. I can drive and we can meet them up there. And so our plan was to get out from behind them.
So you were confused about the way the cars were moving?
Yeah, I didn't understand in hindsight, I know now, but I didn't understand there was entourage. I just thought, they were going to a club. We didn't think about it.
And then at some point on Flamingo, do you stop at a light?
Yeah, so when we get close to the light, I tell Shalane, pull over, I'll drive. I know where I'm going, I've been there before. So we pull from around them, and then we stop at the light, and
before this, that's not yours. So before, when you guys are stopped at the light, where is your car relative to Suge Knight's and Tupac Shakur's car?
So I believe there was 4 lanes, a turning lane, the lane next to it, the middle, and then there was one for like the outside lane. So they were on the 3rd lane, I believe, and when we got off the lane behind them, we got out and we went past, and I think we were a car or 2 on the 2nd lane from the light.
And so were you behind or in front of Suge Knight's car?
We were in front.
So you're in the lane next over, a car, or maybe 2 in front.
Yeah.
And then, while you're waiting at that light, does anything happen?
Well, me and Shalane were going to change seats. I was going to drive. I'm the more aggressive driver, and after what, she was nervous with them coming back in front of us so much. So me and Shalane were literally head down, taking our seatbelts off when we heard the gunshots. When it's all hell broke loose.
And to be fair, you didn't see those gunshots.
No.
And then what do you do when you hear the gunshots?
I freak out and I scream, what the hell? And then Shalane is kind of half up, half down, and so I grab her head to bring her down. And I was like, what the hell? And on the wheel, but she's like frozen. And so I don't remember how many gunshots there were, honestly, but I know I put and I thought the hell out of the drive. And so I may even grab the wheel. Like I said, I'm very aggressive. And from that, she tried to drive off.
And then, did you see the color of the vehicle?
Yeah, so we almost hit the car. When we were trying to drive off, there was a car in that last lane, that was the turning lane, and it was a white 4-door. I can't tell you what kind, but I just know it was like white-ish. And we almost hit it. We were trying to get away.
Were you trying to pursue the white car?
Hell no. Just want to get away.
And then where did you guys go? Did you turn off? Did you follow them turning off? Or?
We turned off. We turned all the way to turn because it was a red light, which was down that first street past. And then when we turned right, we were just driving fast. There still might have been gunshots. I can't speak for anyone else in the car, but it was a lot going on. It was a lot of adrenaline. And then the first street we saw that was on the left, I was like, turn left. And we just turned down a random street that had like apartments on it.
Now, did you, sort of said you didn't see who was in the car, right?
No, didn't look.
But did you go back to where the shooting occurred?
Yes, I did.
Were you nervous about talking about what happened?
I didn't think I had anything valuable to say, to be honest. So I wasn't nervous initially because I just was like, we came back because we wanted to know what happened. Because we left, so we didn't know. We didn't look around. We didn't see anything. We just left. And so when we came back, we saw there were a lot of police presence. And I wasn't a big fan of the police at the time, so it was like I wanted to stop and talk to them and offer my help, but I also wanted to make sure if I could help, I would help. So when we went back, we told the officers we had been there when something happened, what happened when we left. And so he made us stop the car and get out the car. The police officer made us sit on the ground on the sidewalk in front of everything. Like people, cars are still, I think, may have been passing. So it was kind of an odd situation where they were like kind of rude to us, and then they're treating us like we're suspects. We really didn't know what happened though. And so they said, well, we need you guys, eyewitnesses, we need you guys to come downtown or in a van for you guys to come, and had us sit there. I kept asking a lot of questions, but no answers.
Now, I know some of your friends are gonna be here.
I'm trying to pay attention, but y'all on these damn troll accounts. Somebody made an account that says "Keep your D's lungs." Cough. I can't with y'all.
Is there this fear about talking in this kind of case?
Absolutely, yes.
Why is that?
Snitches get the saying, not the coolest, but yeah, talking to police is not a thing we do in our culture anyway. No, like it's not a normal thing. So there was that, especially in the 90s and 80s. There was multiple reasons why, but I didn't see anything. So I was kind of limbo. I didn't see anything. I didn't think I'd be beneficial. And then I don't know. I was going to offer some assistance, what I could, because I may have had more memory back then. I may have heard the number of gunshots. I may have had, more. But the police treat us so bad that I just we start shutting down. Because if someone did it, they could come by and sit on the ground. They can see we're sitting here telling people, even though we're not saying anything. So it's just a really bad situation.
And is it fair to say that that was something that also would scare you, is that if somebody was seeing you talking?
Absolutely.
What's your response? What's your fault?
I'm just following up on your question. She's related to foundation too.
What's the statement you could rephrase?
Is it fair or unfair to say that you are concerned about people seeing you talking to police?
Yes.
All right. No further questions.
Cross-examination, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you.
Oh, here comes Cross.
Hi, sir. Obviously, I would imagine you've never testified before about this particular situation.
No, I was in the grand jury.
Okay, so you were at the grand jury. And with regards to your testimony, when you were in front of the grand jury, did you meet with the district attorney's office prior to giving that testimony to the grand jury?
Not except outside the door when I got to the courthouse. Coming in the door of the grand jury.
I see. And with regards to that testimony, did you review any documents, records, anything like that in preparation for your testimony in front of the grand jury?
No.
All right. Now, asking you again for today, did you review any documents in preparation for your testimony here in front of this jury?
I looked at the grand jury testimony that I said, but other than that.
Okay. Now, when this thing had occurred, I would imagine it would have been a very traumatic experience for you.
Yes.
And at some point you go back to LA. Is that a yes?
Yes.
That's all right. It's just for the record. When you go back to LA, did you ever just sort of keep on top of it, like in terms of like articles that come out in magazines, anything like that at all?
No, we didn't talk about that night for decades. We used to talk about it.
Okay. Now, did you ever at any point capture what you had remembered in a journal or anything like that?
I did a documentary, a couple of documentaries. Yes, years. Like 20 years later.
I see. And in preparation for those documentaries, what did you use to refresh your recollection back then?
Talk to my girlfriend. More talk and try to remember pieces that I could.
Right. And your girlfriend was also present in the Sebring when it happened?
Yes, she was driving.
I see. Now, just to describe us a little bit that night, you're driving in a convertible Sebring.
Yes.
And I'd assume that the top was falling down.
The top was down.
Okay. And the weather that night, was it raining?
No.
Can you describe for the jury what the weather was like that night?
It was Vegas in September. It probably, I'd be guessing, but I know what it wasn't. It wasn't raining. It could have been a cloud in the sky, but I wouldn't remember that. So it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have any jackets. We had designer clothes. That's why I was mad. I had to sit on the curb. But no, it was a nice, cool evening, so I would probably say it.
Auntie kind of cool, man. She said, first of all, F the police. I didn't like police. I had designer, they had me sitting down on the sidewalk in my Gucci, okay? Not the Gucci.
not the Gucci.
80s, 70s, 80s, I have no idea.
All right, but obviously among the four girls, no jackets or anything that would indicate that it was cold that night.
Yes, no.
Now, in addition to that, your testimony was that you had pulled up alongside Suge Knight's vehicle.
Yes.
Now, I noticed that you weren't given a map. Did you ever have an opportunity to kind of envision exactly where this had occurred?
I didn't forget that part.
Okay. If I were to show you a map, would you be able to point out where
Yes.
exactly?
Much as I can, yes, absolutely.
Sure. I'm going to show you what's been marked there in States Exhibit number 1.
That's his strategy. It is crazy. This is witness number 2, our first jury question of the trial. What do they want to know from this witness? What are they going to ask? She just ripped it off, or she? It's being brought up to the judge. Let's see what the jury wants to know.
Any questions from anyone else? Okay, perfect. Can I have the party's approach?
Oh, they ain't gonna let us hear it. Damn. I want to know what they
Is
want to
this
know.
it? Please tell me
So
this
the
it.
defense attorney, or the one defense attorney, because it looks like KPD's lawyer is a party of one, and the two prosecutors have approached the bench. They are talking to the judge, reviewing the question that the jury has. They're going to ask this witness the question, but this sidebar is not something that they're allowing us to hear. We can hear Keefe D's coughs, his sneezes, the ninja pouring water. He just coughed again. We can hear all of that. And the other thing, too, you guys saw it in the YSL case. Usually defendants are wanting to request headphones so they can hear what's happening up there. But Keefe D apparently is just sitting there uninterested. I don't know if they offered him a set of headphones, but usually defendants will want to listen to what's happening up at that bench. Let's see what happens.
All right, one question from a juror. Could you gauge what direction the shots were coming from?
No.
No? Any thoughts? Oh,
Sorry, I'm gonna say it was too chaotic, and you're not, thinking about that, but no.
okay. State any follow-up based on that question?
No, Your Honor.
Defense, any follow-up based on that question?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. You are excused. State any quick witnesses, or are you prepared to take a lunch break at this time?
Lunch break, Judge.
Okay, sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our lunch break at this time. During the recess, you are admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected to the trial, or read, watch, or listen to any report or commentary on the trial of any person connected with this case by any media of information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, internet, and radio.
Okay, they getting ready to do their lunch break. I'm just gonna cut off right here. This is just a good little introduction to the trial. This, that, and the third. See y'all later. Peace.